This week, we focus on rape. Enough is enough. Coming up, Archbishop Desmond Tutu calls on South Africans to reclaim their humanity. How can we go beyond protest action? And Anene Booysen, is this finally a tipping point for South Africa? As Third Degree was preparing the show on the rape of Anene Booysen, the news broke that Oscar Pistorius had been arrested for allegedly murdering his girlfriend. The temptation was to drop the Booysen rape in favour of a bigger, bloodier story. But we decided not to, and will feature a special report on Oscar Pistorius next week. Rape has, after all, reached epidemic proportions in this country. We can no longer turn a blind eye to it. Barbara Friedman has this report.
"360, the number of women raped in South Africa every single day. It took nearly the entire staff at IT company Sage Pastel to help us film this powerful message. 360 rape victims a day, and tragically, most of them never make the headlines. Something that can't be said for young Anene Booysen from the Western Cape. Bredasdorp, a small quiet farming town in the rural Cape. 2nd of February, a security guard finds 17-year-old Anene Booysen on a construction site in the early hours of that morning, gang-raped and disemboweled. She identifies her attackers before she dies some 6 hours later. Anene's mother is inconsolable. Can't imagine a life without her daughter. A funeral to bury a young girl so horrifically violated and brutalized, the protest placards tell the tragic story. 2 men appear in the Bredasdorp Magistrates Court days later on charges of rape and murder. One of the accused is a 23-year-old, reported to be Booysen's ex-boyfriend. He'd spent many days at the Booysen home. The other man is a 21-year-old. The community's anger outside the court is palpable. The men led into the dock, heads covered. Bail is denied. The terrible rape and murder make headlines across the country and around the world. For some reason, this rape touched a nerve. It seemed to galvanise people into anti-rape protests that we haven't seen in a while. Internationally renowned singer and human rights activist Annie Lennox joins school pupils and religious leaders in silent anger on the steps of the St. George's Cathedral.
What we don't want to see is that in a few weeks or months' time, the issue has gone away until the next rape victim, the next murder victim brings enough attention to the media.
For me, what's problematic about the focus on these very violent rape murders is that it really detracts from the fact that rape and murder happens on a daily basis in the Western Cape, and that for many people the kind of rape that they suffer and face is often not a one-off highly violent incident, but is something much more insidious, long-term, is often perpetrated by someone within their close circle, an uncle, a father, a brother's friend.
But is protest action enough?
Having marches, wearing blue on Valentine's Day, calling Valentine's Day V-Day, dancing on the mountain, all of which I think are helpful things to help individuals feel like they're doing something to make a change, are not really long-term, or not strategies that are helpful in the long term. Because once you've marched and you've worn your blue t-shirt, you might have felt like you've done something, but what has really changed?
Gender activist Mbuyisile Botha believes change needs to start at the top.
It's important that the government, the president in particular, takes the lead and leads from the front and say, as South Africans, men in particular, we will not tolerate rape.
The brutal gang rape and murder of Anene Booysen and other women and girls in recent times has brought into sharp focus the need for unity in action. The brutality and cruelty meted out to defenseless women is unacceptable and has no place in our country.
Strong words from the president. But what about action? Both Molt and Botha warn of the dangers of public outrage over rape simply becoming a passing fad.
We would wake up, today, because Anene Booysen's story made headlines. But remember, 2 weeks' time, I bet you a penny to a pound, which I'll have forgotten, will move to the next stage.
This intense focus on these kind of high-profile cases shifts us away from thinking more deeply as a society, as individuals, as researchers, about the realities of rape that we see in South Africa.
Rape is now seen as the norm in our country. What is going on?
Coming up, protests and anger, but this is no longer enough.